That's fun. Do you know the quickest way to get a guitar in tune? I love doing that one. It's a funny gag on stage. Sometimes people get really confused by it. Don't expect it. Oh, it's out of tune. Wait. G'day, my name's Rue. I'm a guitarist here in Nashville. I do the odd session, I play on the odd road gig, and I play downtown a fair bit. And I want to talk about some gig etiquette as it relates to downtown. I guess some traffic's probably going to be driven away because of this, but I want to thank my mate Tom Bukovac for a good shout out. Absolute top bloke. Can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me in this town. He's really, really, really helped me out and been very patient with me as I've figured this all out on a professional and emotional level. There's a lot of people like that in this town, and that's something I guess I want to get into. I consistently mention people who've helped me in this town and what they've done for me. And I think it's really important to note just how important community can be when it comes to figuring stuff out. You know, I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I'm able to help people out a bit and perhaps give videos that provide context and clues as to things that maybe you can do in your personal workings as a guitar player or someone who wants to move in Nashville. But let's talk about some gig etiquette that I've had to learn over the years myself, and everyone has to. I'm going to say the biggest thing is communication. Communication is key. You know, if you have a gig, make sure you know where it is, what the bass pay is, what's expected of you. Is it direct? Do I need ears? Is it monitors? Do I need an amp? Is there no monitors? Is there no board? You know, anything like that. Make sure you get this information from a band leader. Perhaps at the time there's a musician you're not willing to work with, so you could find out the band. Find out that stuff. As a band leader, you need to make sure you are telling people what the bass pay is, where the gig is, what time the gig starts. So not just, hey, it's at 6, because I've had someone recently be like, it's at 6. I was like, all right, well, I finish at 5:55 and I can run across the street and be there as a new venue, but it was like 6:30 downbeat, band before finished at 6. So, you know, I'm running over like a mad hound for nothing. And I was kind of like, all right, cool. Downbeat is 6:30. Sound check really is going to start about 6:10. So little things like that. You know, it's always annoying when you get a text from a random number. It's like, hey, can you play 10 to close? Like, where? What's the bass pay? Who are you? You know, so that's a little thing. Now, on stage communication is huge. You need to be paying attention, maybe listening in ears. You know, I had a situation not long ago where I couldn't hear a talkback monitor, talkback mic, and I said to someone, can you repeat that? And they blew up. They were like, fuck you, this isn't good enough. You need to fucking pay attention. I was like, no, man, I asked you to repeat. And he's like, oh, do you want to go home? Like, you can go home right now. I don't care. And I was like, no. Like, we nearly got into it, but I was like, you need me. Like, you need to chill out and stuff. And you know, I'm very fortunate that that person apologized and recognized in the moment he had done wrong, but tensions can get very high. So communication needs to remain clear at all points. There's a lot of ego involved with this, and I try not to approach music or stage like that, but some people perhaps don't choose that path. You know, I'm wearing an Aphex Twin shirt. You know, you can't really wear silly shirts like this and then wander around thinking you're better than everyone. But communication, the trick for me for communication is making sure it's clear and concise and removing your own ego from it. Too many times have I seen people blow up on stage or get angry because they're unable to communicate things that perhaps they don't understand or that they want, but they don't know how to communicate it. I had a front once say to me, the band isn't tight. We need to fix this. This is rubbish. And I said, what's in your inner mix? And they said, my vocals. And I said, great. Where are the guitars? Where is the bass? Where are the drums? Where are the other vocals? If you can only hear yourself, well, you're not communicating, are you? That's a really big thing. Etiquette is to be able to hear everyone. If you have your monitor and like, you know, I just get guitar, what am I doing? I'm playing guitar for myself. I'm not playing music with other people. At that point, I'm just playing guitar, you know? Making sure you can hear everyone, making sure you're giving visual contact is really important. Too often do I play with people with like blinkers on, but like I need to be able, if I can't hear them in the talkback or something, I need to be able to turn around and go, okay, we're doing What's Up by Four Non Blondes, or G or A, because those are the two commonly called keys. So I need to know so I can then quickly adjust on the fly which key I'm going to do. Show up on time to your gigs if you can. Show up early. If you're running from another one, let them know. Day of, text the person you're working with, or really they should text you and say, hey, see you at 10 p.m. And you go, cool, see you then. I got a text a few minutes ago that says, hey man, see you at 6 p.m. because I'm playing today 6 p.m. Now I know that's my regular shift. I've had it for over a year, but we still text each other, hey, see you at 6. Now, some other things. Try and dress appropriately for the gig. You don't have to go all out, and you don't have to necessarily just wear all black, but like just t-shirt that's clean, pair of jeans, pair of shoes, you'll be fine. You don't have to dress up like a cowboy. You can if you want, but casual on somewhere like Broadway is always going to be fine. Communicate whether it's half step down or standard. That's a thing. If you're running between gigs, use a pedal, like a drop. It sucks, but be ready. Guitar players, you're probably going to get told to turn down. You need to be ready for that, and you're going to have to communicate with sound guys about what you want. You're going to have to really learn how to listen and talk to people. Too many people take this so seriously, like it's everything. I'm not trying to say it's just Broadway, but it's not life or death. Now, music is very important, and playing good music is extremely important, but some people let their ego override the situation, and they really just ruin it for everyone else, which is, I think, a big shame. Some Broadway other bits of etiquette. If you're going to call out of a gig, call the person organizing the gig first. It's not appropriate really to do it same day. And if someone else is gonna, I had someone hire me, and then someone else he preferred became available 3 hours before the gig. And so he texts me, he's like, oh, I'm gonna, go with this guy. Oh, his bass player had booked him. And I was like, no, he hasn't. Do you mind sending me bass pay? Because you've now cost me work. And he didn't like that, but poor communication and lying on his behalf has cost him, right? If you're going to call out of a gig, I hope the reason's good. And it's not just I'm sitting at home to play Star Wars Dark Forces, although that sounds good. It should be an emergency as opposed to, oh, I'm going to go take a better paying gig. Now, if you have that understanding with someone, like I have this one regular gig that it's not fantastic, but it's a fun little gig. But if I got offered a gig where they're like, hey, it's probably like $300-400 gig, he's like, yeah, man, go take it. It's fine. I'll figure it out. But if he can't figure it out, I committed to that gig. But too often I've seen people posting like, oh, I need a emergency, like, blah, blah, blah. And then you go see him have moved from like Tootsie's back room to Kid Rock's main. And it's, most people would understand, but people don't communicate this. So, the biggest thing about gig etiquette is communication. When you finish a song, turn to the band, or make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you have the in-ears in so you can hear the transitions. Make sure you're paying attention to everything around you. Make sure you're trying to put on a show. Be honest about where you're at. That's a huge part of gigging etiquette in Nashville that I think a lot of people miss. More often than not, people move here and will say, I want to play country gigs. It's like, great, me too, but I'm not the best at the Brent thing or the Brad thing or playing country music, really. But I've learned a lot in 5 years because a lot of guys have helped me, and I've been honest about where I'm at and where I'd like to be. And, I talk to these guys all the time, session players and this and that, and then they'll, or road guys, and they'll help you and be like, man, do this, this. But a lot of times, people will say like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then they show up and they don't know anything. Because there's one drummer I played with for a long time where, man, I'd be like, we'd get a weird request, like, I don't know, for that stage and that band, a weird request would be the fireman. Although that, George Strait, although that's not a weird request. But I'd be like, hey man, do you know it? He'd be like, yeah, I know it. And I'd be like, do you know it? He'd be like, yeah, do you know it like the record? Yeah. and then he'd count it off wrong, or we'd start it wrong, and I'd just be like, dude, you clearly don't know it. You just lied to me. And it was a continual habit across, you know, I don't know, every gig where I was just like, why can't you just be honest? Because I'd rather someone tell the truth than fake their way through it poorly if they're not competent enough, or lie. Last night I had to sing John Deere Green by Joe Diffie, and you know, the request came in, and I texted the group and said, look, I've never done it. It's probably not going to be amazing, but I can try it. Can we skip the key change? And they were like, okay, we'll try it. And I learned a lot. It was hard. I didn't sing it that amazing. I got through it, but I got home and was like, cool, okay, I'm going to work on that, make sure I have it. But I was honest about where I'm at, and they made an educated decision based on that, whether to do it or not. So being honest about your abilities is a big one. This is just some Broadway etiquette. Don't harass people online for base pay, maybe for like, I reckon people have got probably like 3 weeks max to get your pay. Sucks, but it is what it is with the new payment systems. There's a way to have fun with people on the mic that can be fun for everyone. People yell Freebird all the time, and I say, what's the first word of that song? And they're like, okay, it's $100 song, blah, blah, blah. And I know that's ridiculous. There'll probably be a comment about that, but I don't know, it's a Broadway thing. Cool. Make the rules, you know. I just do my best to try and do the job. So look, this is some stuff. Don't drink too much on the gig. Don't get too high on the gig. Whatever. Try and have a reasonable tone. Don't make the gig about yourself. The music's never about you. That's a huge one. So that's some Broadway etiquette. You know, there's no clear defined rules. Maybe I could talk about the road stuff, but I'm not as versed on the road stuff, although I am looking to go on the road. Studio stuff, I'm going to defer directly to people like Tom and Jed, Derek Wells, Chris Donegan, all these guys who are in any interviews, Dan Huff, and post and talk about it. Rob McNally, as far as guitar playing goes, because those are cats I look up to. Brent Mason. Lord knows if I didn't mention Brent Mason, how messed up that'll be. Someone left a funny comment on the picture of me and Brent. That was the first time I met Brent. I remember being so nervous, and then ended up getting to sit in that studio with him and being like, for all the gearheads, 1965 J45, my friend Aaron Parker over at Glazer sold me. The finish got removed in the 70s sometime, and he put this on it. It's a wide nut. The top is sinking, and I can't afford to get it fixed. But it sounds and feels fantastic. It kind of just goes like that. So eventually I'll get it fixed. It's the only acoustic I own, so I don't really know what else to say about it. Maybe I should learn some bluegrass stuff. There's a picker in town, Paul Segroi, S-G-R-O-I, who is one of the most melodic and beautiful people I've ever heard playing an acoustic guitar solo. It's scary. He has a great gig story. He's a country picker, right? And he got hired. I hope you're fine with me telling this, Paul, but this is important. He got hired for like a rock pop gig, and they got upset when he didn't know the rock pop stuff, but he blatantly told them before on the, like, being hired, like, hey, I'm not the guy if you're going to call all this. Calling a lot of country will be fine, but if it's all rock, I'm out. I don't know it. And he kind of, you know, he was blunt with them and honest, and they still got upset. And in that case, that's a communication breakdown, which is on the people who hired him, not him, because he was honest about where he's at and his abilities. And I guess they ignored that. Other gig etiquette. Don't take song requests you don't know. That's a crazy one that I feel like I shouldn't have to say, but like too often, no, you'll be fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. And it's like Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden or something. It's like, I think that's who does it. Yikes. It's on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, I know that. No, Rusty Cages. Either way, cool music video. But there's so much to it, and someone's like, we got $20 for it, and I was like, dude, I don't know it. And he's like, no, be fine. Total train wreck. Everyone left, and I was like, you can't get upset at me because I actively tried to warn against this. Not to say I'm better or know better than anyone, but just these are things you learn as you do this more and more, that certain things work, certain things don't, but there's got to be a rationale of common sense involved when working towards the common goal of playing music, right? And too often I think that's forgotten in the sense that a lot of people are just focused on making the money and not really worried about whether or not things go well or blah, blah, blah. If you play with a good band and play good music, people have general understandings like, maybe we shouldn't do that tune because none of us know it, or no, we know it well enough, we can get through it, etc. Another thing is, if you're new to town, probably don't take the crazy, Jamie Michaels band gig on guitar unless you really know your stuff. Being honest about your level, but self-assessment is very clear. When I moved to town, I took a lot of bass gigs, although not a bass player. I took the kind of stages that they just needed someone to play bass, but it allowed me a chance to listen and learn. But I'd be always honest, I'm not a great bass player. Although now I'm not terrible. Weirdly, I have a person who came to me asking for bass lessons because they like my feel and groove. Get a very round tone because I'm a round human. Although I'm down 46 pounds now, I just want to say it's a pretty good feeling. But yeah, look, that's just some stuff. And this is stuff I've had to learn the hard way. It's not to say that I'm absolved of guilt or past shame from having done any of it, but I've been there and I've been in those unfortunate positions and I've been that person in some cases. I've always tried to be honest about where I was in gigs, but I still would get hired. I remember once, Thanksgiving 2021, I got hired for a gig on bass and they were like, it's all 90s and earlier country, deep cuts and stuff. And I was like, man, I'm not your guy. But I was literally the only person available. And the drummer was someone who didn't know any of the tunes either. And yet the guitarist and singer still got upset with us. And I was like, man, I told you guys, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, you can't get upset with me because I'm trying my best to work with you, but blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they blew up after the gig, but I was just like, man, I warned you. So a lot of people kind of excommunicate themselves from getting a lot of work by being like that. It's just smile, nod, be truthful, be honest. Otherwise, you might get work, but no one wants to work with bullies or manipulators or liars, and no one wants to work with people who continually deliver broken promises, right? I want to work with this guitar. I want to make it better. I know that. Look at that lovely little headstock. I'm not a bluegrass picker. Ooh. There it is. Some gig etiquette, a rant in D minor. I hope everyone has a great day, great Sunday, day of rest. I just taught a lesson and I'm gonna teach a couple more and then I'm gonna go do a gig and then I go hang out with my wife. So, might watch Star Wars. Ooh. Probably episode 5. I think that's my favorite. But yeah, if you have a favorite acoustic guitar, let me know. If you've ever gotten really great advice for a gig, let me know. And if you have a favorite Star Wars film, let me know. All right. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, all that. Still means the world to me. Can't believe it's happening like it has. Even though it's not like I'm, massively famous or something, but it all means something to me. So, cheers.